Yo. Hello and welcome to the Around the 412 2021 Pens Playoff Primer episode. We are so ready for playoff hockey here in Pittsburgh. At least we know when we're playing now. We got Tyler here with me, of course, like we do every episode, but also joining us for this episode, we got Doug Lackey and Jordan DeFigio. What is going on?
So pumped for this playoff series. That's what's going on.
Absolutely. Doug, what's going on?
I'm just ready for playoff.
Ready
for the playoffs start, man. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, but Jordan, I think that you kind of forced the NHL's hand, honestly, into releasing the schedule. Like between you and Matt.
Yeah, we were going hard.
Twitter, yeah. The two of you, I feel like, kind of forced the NHL's hand into releasing it. Otherwise, I'm not so sure that we would know when we were playing yet.
We may have never played these games if it weren't for Matt and me just being so persistent with the NHL.
Okay, but let's talk about this series against the Islanders. A team that we recently saw in the playoffs back in 2019, and I feel like a lot of Islanders fans are chirping us right now, thinking it's going to go down the exact same way. But I'll tell you what, I don't think Jack Johnson and Eric Branson are walking through these doors anytime soon. So I'm not expecting this series to go that way. I think if the Islanders are, they're in for a rude awakening. We're going to dive deep into this, but initial thoughts on this series, what are we thinking?
I'm thinking that it's the complete opposite of how I felt in 2019. I was not confident whatsoever in that series, and I think this just because of the new Barry Trotz system that the Islanders had in that it was just so dominating towards the Penguins and how they played. There was just no space to do anything. Literally no zone entries were clean. And the Islanders it's not that they were a better team skill-wise. They just knew how to beat them. And it was on display the entire time. I mean, they got swept. But this time I'm feeling, honestly, I don't want to seem overconfident, but I'm feeling really good going into the series. I mean, out of the three teams that we could have played, the Islanders were my first choice. So the fact that that's how it played out, I'm happy about.
Avoiding Boston. Listen, I wasn't going to say that I was scared of playing any team, but if possible, I really wanted to avoid Boston. I am still not over the Sabres gifting them Taylor Hall because I felt like Boston going into the playoffs, I figured they were going to be a playoff team. They were like a one-line team. If you can shut down that one line, you're going to beat them. However, now, with the addition of Taylor Hall, he's also got David Krejci going, who's gotten Craig Smith going. They at least have two lines now that can score. And that sucks because without the addition of Taylor Hall, that doesn't happen. So thanks, Buffalo. You opened the East wide up for everybody. But anyway, Jordan, Doug, go ahead.
Geez, and just to kind of piggyback off of that, the Penguins' first line against the Bruins' first line is just they completely shut the Crosby line down for whatever reason. That Patrice Bergeron line is just pounding the throat of our first line, and Sully refuses to do any kind of mismatch at home. So it completely neutralizes our first line, our top players. But I would have to kind of agree completely with Tyler. Like this, I don't want to seem too confident because the last couple of postseasons have been pretty catastrophic in terms of what the Penguins have not done. They have just completely underachieved. But what we've seen them do at the end of this season is so unlike the last few teams that they've put out there on the ice in the postseason. Like this feels more like the 2016, 2017 team than it does anything in the more recent past. Like they don't let things get under their skin like they have it against the Islanders and then against the Canadians. Like they bounce back, they find ways to win, and the chemistry across the board from line 1 to line 4, like these guys are just gelling right now and they're getting healthy. They're finally healthy. Like I don't think this series is a lock for the Penguins, but I feel really good going into it. At least that we're not going to get swept. So I will say that we're not going to lose all 4.
All right, Doug, what do you got for us?
I feel really good about it. I think the big difference between 2019 and now is just the quality of defensemen they have. They're a lot stronger. They're a lot more defensively sound, and they're a lot better on with the breakout, which is going to help them against the system that Barry Trotz runs. And, I know they don't have Kessel like they did in 19, but I feel like this team is so much more deeper forward wise. I mean, I think we're in a good spot whenever we're talking about Freddie Gaudreau being the 12th skater and just like the version of Freddie Gaudreau that we've gotten since everybody got injured. So I'm really confident in this team, and I think this is the best I felt about a team going into the playoffs in Crosby and Malkin's entire career.
Wow. So I was just saying, I wanted to like keep this in my brain to bring up because I wanted to finally let Doug talk once Jordan wrapped up. But like Sarge texted me earlier, and I hate bringing him up on the show. Just kidding, Sarge, love you. But he texted me earlier and said, "Where do you think this team compares to like the Penguins teams that have actually won cups?" And I was like, honestly, on paper, I think they're better than the 2017 team. It's hard to say the 2016 team. And honestly, the big question for me is really just about in net, because say what you want about Matt Murray, 16 and 17, he was lights out, and Fleury as well when he had to play. Like Tristan Jarry, love him. I don't necessarily like, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I just think it's a question mark, and we didn't have that question mark in net for those seasons. So, but on paper, when you look at top to bottom, and Doug, you mentioned Freddie Gaudreau is like the 12th forward. The biggest thing that we were trying to find out down the stretch is like when healthy, is it him or Evan Rodriguez? But watching Gaudreau play with McCann and Carter, that's your answer. Because if the spot that we were looking for was on the second line with Gino and Kapanen, then I might lean Rodriguez. But since Zucker's playing with those guys and we're looking for that guy next to McCann and Carter, I think it's Freddie Gaudreau. At least to start, but how nice is it to have that, Swiss Army knife guy like Evan Rodriguez, who's really the only guy in this roster that's played literally on lines 1 through 4 this year, who we know Sullivan likes that versatility to have that guy as your 13th forward. So I think this team is in a really good spot. And you talk about health. I mean, it's music to my ears, the fact that we got everybody participating in a full capacity right now, just getting DeSmith back. But listen, even if a guy like Max Legacy had to be the backup, so be it, especially with what he went out and did in the season finale. But this team, like you guys are saying, like it's hard to say that I felt this good any of the past 3 years going into the playoffs.
I think you can make an argument that at least on paper, now the 2016 team, I say, is the most dominant I've ever watched a Penguin team be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think on paper, you could say that this team is, at least forward-wise, is better going into this playoffs than that team was. It's just that we know how that team ended. We don't know how this team's going to end. I think we look at that team and we compare them just because they won the cup. This team hasn't done that yet. But on paper, I would say this forward group is better than that was.
Yeah. And why I say, like, I have them definitely over the 17 and just I'm not sure about the 16. The difference between 16 and 17 was Chris Letang. Like, the fact that they 17 without him isn't an indictment on the player that Chris Letang is, by the way, even though people want to make it seem like that on Twitter. Like, what resiliency from them. The fact that Ron Hainsey came over to us and was playing on his weak side on the top pairing with Brian Dumoulin and had the playoff run he did. Like, who's going to be that Ron Hainsey or that going back to the year prior than that Ben Lovejoy? Who's going to have like one of those playoffs for this team? That was actually one of the questions I put in my notes. So
when you look at that,
a legit answer on that, then that'd be great. But
when you look at that 17 team and you look at, I mean, just missing Letang, looking at how good that Capitals team they beat was, and just looking at the entire playoffs, there's really no reason the Penguins should have won that cup, but they did.
Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury's second round against the Caps was ridiculous. Like, especially the shutout in Game 7. I mean, just, and then you look at the Eastern Conference Final where there were 2 games where they got absolutely blown out by the Senators.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that the Senators should have been there either, but they were.
Yeah.
And then, the Cup Final where you have shutouts in back-to-back games in 6 and 7 from Matt Murray. That's, again, I think that in 16, you could have put me in net and that team would have won with how good they were defensively, giving up like 15 shots a night. 17, they needed to be the better goaltending team literally every night because they were giving up 30.
And they were.
Yeah.
With the exception of those couple games against Ottawa where they let up like 6 or 7 goals and it was just miserable. But yeah, I think you're right. And the reason the 16 team was so incredible was the 16 and 17 was that they did have guys like Ron Hainsey and Ben Lovejoy. Those guys were stepping up. And I feel like what we're seeing even going into the playoffs is Jeff Carter. Like he's taking on that role, and the Penguins, ever since we lost Nick Bonino, have been looking for that third line center. Like, they tried to force Derek Brassard into that role and it didn't work. And then miserable. so bad. And that's all I'll say about it. But like, they've been trying to like pigeonhole guys into that position, and it just hasn't been working because the natural fit just isn't there. But Teddy Bluger filled in pretty nicely throughout the majority of the season when he had to. But as soon as Tanev went out, I think we saw a dip in productivity offensively from him and even from Zach Aston Reese. But regardless, the trade deadline acquisition of Jeff Carter, that is going to be one of the biggest steals and best deals of all time, I think, like, at least in my opinion. He's playing into that role of depth guy, veteran player, who is giving the Penguins something that they haven't had over the last several years, which is forward depth. Like, that has been a huge black hole for them. And like, I just think that he's really stepped up and will continue to step up going into the playoffs. And I think even like we've seen Marcus Pettersson do a little bit better, like with the exception of a couple games there at the end of the regular season, like his play got better. Like, he was at least not making mistakes. And I think that having defensive depth where you can kind of play lockdown, but also see some offense too, like that goal that he scored, oh my goodness, like through the wickets, like it was insane the way that he maneuvered the puck, unbelievable. But I think that those are the two guys that I have my eyes on, because everybody else you're kind of expecting, like Brian Dumoulin, Chris Letang, John Marino, even Mike Matheson and Cody Ceci. What the hell? Like, those guys have been incredible this season. So I think that Marcus Pettersson might be that ace up your sleeve kind of performance in the playoffs. We'll see.
The unsung hero. Yeah, Doug, I do want to get your thoughts on this, but real quick, just because you were saying that, kind of like made me think of this. What's like with these defensive pairings, I don't necessarily love that it's the case, but it seems like these guys pretty much have to play with the partner who they're with, where their game is completely different. Like, there's a huge drop off in play. Like, Dumoulin and Letang, perfect together, keep them together. Marino and Pettersson, they got to play together. They've been their best shutdown pairing. Obviously, Marino having not as good of an offensive season as he did in his rookie campaign, but I don't know that it was fair to expect him to do that again. And then Ceci and Matheson, just absolutely ridiculous. So we've seen what those guys have been like away from each other. So yeah, these defensive pairings, they're perfect the way that they are. You just got to hope that all six of those guys can stay healthy through the playoff run. Doug, give me a guy that you think might be like Jordan said, like maybe an unsung hero going back to like a Ron Hainsey in 17 or Lovejoy in 16.
I think that this spring, Jason Zucker's finally going to prove his worth and prove that the trade was worth it. That's a guy that he hasn't really fit in much up until this point, outside of that short stint where he was playing on Sid's line before he went into the stoppage and into the bubble. But, he's a very polarizing figure within the fan base, and I would love nothing more than to see him just go off and kind of basically prove all the doubters wrong, because I feel like every single day I refresh Twitter to somebody saying that the trade is bad, that he's a fourth liner or something of that nature, and I'm getting to a point where I just can't take it.
Yeah, this is the problem. This is him. He doesn't have hands.
Yeah.
That's really been the only that's the only knock on his game. He's great at forechecking. He drives play. He makes his teammates better. It's just, I don't know where the hands have been. It's just there's been no finish to his game. And I think a lot of it's honestly bad luck. Like, he should have way better numbers than he's putting up right now. But man, that would be, if he does have, a very nice run, almost like a Hagelin in 16 or a Bonino, when those guys were putting up points on the HBK line, man, does that make the expansion draft very interesting, because right now you're probably looking at it like, do we need to protect Zucker with his $5+ million cap hit, or would Seattle not even consider it? But if he goes on a nice playoff run, it makes things interesting for sure. Tyler, who's your? This is kind of different for me than saying like who's the X factor, but who do you think ends up being the unsung hero of this playoff run?
Kasperi Kapanen is my pick. I'm looking at the duo that he had with Gino, and a lot of this is actually coming with me hoping that Gino has been playing better than what we saw to the end of the season. Not that he was terrible, but I want the Gino and Kapanen that we saw before they both got hurt, because that duo was super good, and we know that Mike Sullivan loves his duos. I mean, and that was the one that they had in the second line. I think if those two combined and play like they were before, and then throw in Zucker with the three of them, I think that line could be very, very good and very potent. And I think Kasperi Kapanen has the goal scoring touch to really control and take over games in these playoffs.
I like that answer. See, I would consider. I was thinking about him like, is he the X factor for this team? I want a little different direction, but like my unsung hero, and I'm glad that I feel like Jordan started to kind of make this comparison a little bit. You were talking Nick Bonino, and then you went to Jeff Carter, but you also mentioned this guy's name. How about a comparison a little bit of Nick Bonino to Teddy Bluder? Because I think that is those two guys are very close to me. Teddy Bluder's a guy that I think is going to be an unsung hero for them should this team advance pretty far in the playoffs. And the reason I say that is because of like the similarities in those two games. Like the best two-way guy probably besides Sid, when you talk about our centers, can kill penalties. There's just something about Teddy Bluger that I love, and we've talked about it before, Tyler. Like this guy has reached the point where I feel like he's an automatic protect, and I think that a lot of that also plays into the fact with the lack of center depth the organization has. But I think that's the point it's gotten to with Teddy Bluger. Like if he had to play a larger role than he could, but right now, like as a fourth line center, I think that's as good as you're getting in the league. And when he gets Zach Aston Reese and Tanev back, like those three together have been fantastic. Like defensively, what they bring, even when it's just him and Aston Reese, when Tanev's out there as well, they seem to have a little bit more of an offensive element to their game. The penalty kill has probably been like the one thing that I think the Penguins need to really improve upon going into the playoffs. That's just enhanced even more because there's so few opportunities. So your special teams has to be that much better. And he is one of the few guys that has been good on the penalty kill. So I think this guy plays a large role for them in the playoffs. And I'm excited to see it. But, okay, this series in general, though, we really haven't touched on the Islanders much at all, other than just saying we don't think the Pens are in the same place as 2019 when the Islanders steamrolled us. So I know the Islanders necessarily aren't coming in as the hottest team. They end up finishing fourth when at one point not too long ago they were in first. So what are we seeing from the Islanders that would make you a little bit weary? Like, what are you scared of? What do they have going on? Obviously, Barry Trott's probably one of the best coaches, but as far as a team who added Kyle Palmieri, I don't know why I was having trouble saying that, and Travis Zajac, what are we seeing from the Islanders?
It's tough for me to answer this question because player personnel wise, honestly, not that much scares me on their team. And I mean, yeah, he's their best player. He's ridiculous. But like even going back to 2019, if you just break it down like line by line, they didn't have like outstanding players. They don't have superstars. It's just the system. which is my answer. If I'm going to be afraid of anything, it's their system. But the reason I'm not as afraid of it this year is because it kind of got exposed. And the Penguins were one of those teams that exposed it. I mean, the Penguins were 6-2 against the Islanders this year. You mentioned that they did not finish great. They won 3 out of their last 10 games. The Penguins won 9 out of their last 11. So if you're just comparing the teams, how they finished the season and how the Penguins played them this year, there's really not that much I'm afraid of, which I know that's probably not the attitude I should have, but I can't help it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can have that attitude, though, because we're not the ones playing them. So I think that, like, as long as the Penguins don't go into it being unafraid of this team in a way that allows the Islanders to just take full advantage of them. Like, yeah, Matt Barzal is really the only guy that concerns me on their roster. Like, I feel like Jordan Eberle, we can shut him down. Anders Lee, we can shut him down.
Anders Lee season anyway, torn ACL.
Yeah. Oh, he's all right. There you go. Yeah. I'm so disconnected from the Islanders because their style of play is just so boring. They're so boring.
If you look at their point scores, I'm looking at it right now. Their leading scorer was Matt Barzal, shocker, but 45 points in 55 games.
Wouldn't Chris Letang have been their leading scorer?
Yeah, he would have. Tang had 47 points.
That's saying something. Yeah.
So Josh Bailey, 35, Brock Nelson, 33, Jordan Eberle, 33. Honestly, that is the scariest part for the Penguins is Jordan Eberle, because it doesn't matter how the game's going, he finds a way to score.
Him and Brock Nelson. That's what I was going to say. Those guys seem like a lot better players than they are because they always score against the Pens.
Yeah, always. Yeah, Doug, I don't know.
Doug, what do we got on the Islanders?
The only thing that I'm worried about potentially would be the top pairing of Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock.
Yeah,
because it reminds me a lot of that Sherratt-Weber pairing that got set down last year in the bubble. I mean, they're both two guys that play with size, and they were a big reason that everything fell apart in 19 for the Penguins as well. They were really good together in that series, and I'm worried that of what could potentially happen if there was a repeat performance of that, because you don't know what Malkin's line it looks like yet. We need Malkin to get going, and I mean the only real outside of Sid's line, if it gets shut down, you're looking for offense from the Carter line, and that's pretty much it because of where we're at with Malkin. Yeah, hopefully he comes out on Sunday and is shot out of cannon, but we don't know yet. So
yeah.
That is a good point. If you were to say Evgeny Malkin's the X factor, I could understand that because it looks like he's still getting his skates back, and he had a little what's the word I'm looking for? Not setback, obviously, but he didn't play the last 8 minutes of that finale due to a little knee-on-knee contact, and we were oh God, we're all taking a deep breath. Obviously, came away from that fine, but yeah, since he's come back, it looks like he's just still getting his footing, and you need to see him now start to turn it on with Kasperi Kapanen and with Jason Zucker and provide that second line of offense. And that's what I've been really worried about if we were playing Boston here, is because that Sid line is going to be neutralized by the Bergeron line. If we didn't have Gino and company also putting up offense behind those guys, that's how you can end up losing that series to Boston. But hey, that's potentially down the road, hopefully. With the Islanders, yeah, I mean, those two guys, that defensive pairing, not necessarily household names, at least yet, but they are a very good pairing. There's not much. I think I'm with Tyler, where it's the system more than anything for me, going into this series. Like I said, I give Barry Trotz a ton of credit. I think he's one of the best in the league, but you do start to feel did his system already start to get somewhat exposed? A team that obviously they ran us over and then did very well in the bubble last year. But we saw things not necessarily trend in the right direction for them at the right time this year, especially when it comes to playing the teams in the division ahead of them. So only time will tell. But, okay, so not necessarily a player here. It can be something about the team. I think a simple answer would probably just be health. But what is the X factor for the Penguins as we go into the playoffs?
Forechecking.
What
the twin brain there? Yep.
Listen,
that's going to be huge.
When the Penguins are at their best, look at the 16 and 17 teams. Their forechecking was relentless from all four lines. Everybody was just puck hungry. So literally no one could take a shift off, and that's the biggest deal. Because I think that's whenever this team is at its best.
That was wild.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan, if you want to add to that.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, but seriously, that's when you are constantly going after the puck, when you're puck hungry, like Tyler said, that wears other teams down. And when the Penguins were forechecking the most in the last couple weeks of the season, those were the games where they looked the most dominant because every single line was going out onto the ice and just beating the tar out of the other team trying to get the puck. And whenever you have four lines that are just constantly rotating out onto the ice trying to do that and sucking the life out of the other team, that's exhausting, and it's difficult to keep up with because that's the mentality of the entire team. And I just think that's going to be huge, and kind of working off of that related a little bit, they just need to shoot the puck. They need to forecheck and they need to shoot. They get a little too preoccupied sometimes. It seems like they're fixated on trying to make pretty goals happen But if we know one thing, it's that you just need to shoot the dang puck. Like, good things happen when you shoot the puck. Like, and that's something I think that Jeff Carter has brought to the team that was kind of, it was kind of not missing, but like that mentality has been more evident in across the board since he's arrived.
Well, Doug, before you give your answer here, like to Jordan, to your point, Jeff Carter, he shoots the puck from anywhere at any time. He's not afraid to do it. But more importantly, he does what the Penguins were lacking before that acquisition, where they were not shooting from the center of the ice and from high danger areas. And he immediately came over and started to turn those red parts of the map blue. So shout out to Jeff Carter. He's been a great acquisition, but go ahead, Doug.
I was going to say their penalty kill needs to be a lot better. Obviously, they have the personnel. They have a lot of good defensive players. I don't know if it's like a systemic issue this year, but like the penalty kill was really good last year. It was almost automatic at times, and you still have like the same like three main guys with the Bluger line who are your main PKers, and then obviously the addition of Kasperi Kapanen would have to help it, I would think. But I'm not sure what it is. I mean, they have a lot of talented guys defensively, and they should be able to be a lot better on the PK than they've been.
Yeah, my answer was going to be special teams as a whole, just because, like I said a little bit earlier, like penalties, they're harder to come by. Refs put away the whistles come playoff time. So when you get the opportunities, you got to cash in and stop the other team from cashing in. So I think that goes on both sides, the penalty kill and the power play. And to Jordan's point about shooting the puck, there's no such thing as a bad shot on goal. So I know that they have a ton of talent. It doesn't need to be pretty. It doesn't need to be a tic-tac-toe pass that goes to the back of the net. But yeah, I think special teams, and I'll throw in goaltending as well, just because, like I said, Tristan Jarry, I definitely trust him, but this is his stage now. Like, it's going to be, I know that he saw sometime in the bubble in that mini series against Montreal, but he's the guy now in net, and he's got to answer the call, because look, we're talking about it. This is the best team that we've seen on paper in a long time, and people are looking in net right now saying, okay, that's great that you have all this great team on paper, but what about that guy in net? Is he going to be able to answer the bell?
Here's hoping.
Yeah, Jari, I have confidence in Jari, but at the same time, there's just like a little bit of nervousness because I don't really know how it's going to.
Well, here's the thing: if something unforeseen does happen, do we trust a guy like Casey DeSmith to step in?
I do. I think he's been one of the better backups in the NHL, and I trust Jari too. It's just when I look at Jari's season as a whole, he started out very shaky. He wasn't that uniform in net. He was very shallow,
which is historically the case with him, though.
Yeah, and he got a lot better. But then recently, there's been a couple like hiccups that I've seen as well. That it just makes me like, okay, I know that you're really good and you should be really good, but I want you to do it for an extended period of time when you absolutely have to, because this is the time you need to do it for sure.
Yeah. And I think he's shown that he has he gets hung up on things that he shouldn't. Like, he gets fixated a little bit. Like that.
Trying to score an empty net goal.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. He was more preoccupied with that, and that was where his mind was. And he was making really terrible decisions from inside the crease and weird passes and totally errant. The decision making was suspect for sure. And that's where I get a little bit nervous with him. It's not so much his ability, because I think that he's a phenomenal goaltender, but it's whenever it comes down to okay, what are you focusing on when you're in the net? Like, are you getting distracted by things that ultimately don't matter, like scoring an empty net goal? And I feel like since that moment, that game was a total embarrassment, and he's been not as locked down as he was prior to that, but he's been very reliable since. I think that as long as the coaching staff can keep kind of like shepherding him in the right direction, like I do trust him. I think he's a great goaltender. I think that given what we've seen, we have no reason to doubt that he can take the Penguins where they need to go and also steal a few games here and there if they need that from him.
So I agree with Ricky here that I think he has bad periods. We've never really seen him have like an entire bad game.
Yeah.
It's always like one period that we're like, oh, what, like the third period in that one game that he just like totally melted down and we ended up losing to Philly. Like it was literally just the third period that was terrible. But like I wanted to bring up, if you didn't, and I'm glad that you did, because now I can just play off what you said, that like, yeah, there might be a time where he has to steal a win. Like we saw it in both the cup years, like every once in a while you're gonna have to win a game 1-0, 2-1. Like, is he going to be able to have that type of performance in the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
The thing with him that's interesting is in Jeff of Penn's blog brought it up when he was on here with us. It's like if the dude gets pulled, and essentially like if you're in a game and you stay in the whole time, even though you give up 6 or 7, like I'm considering it that you got pulled. You just didn't because of the circumstance of the game, but I'm still going to chalk it up as you getting pulled. The dude is out of his mind the next night. So, and I think that the team is kind of the same way. They don't stack bad performances. And that's why I say like this team certainly isn't, they're not flawless by any means. They have their flaws to them, but is there a team that, even taking that consideration, can beat them 4 times out of 7? Because this isn't a team that has bad performance. They have a bad performance, learn from it, and then come at you and absolutely dominate the next night.
Yeah.
They might be the best team in the NHL, and Sullivan might be the best coach in the NHL when it comes to making an adjustment from one game to the next. And I think that we really saw that this year due to the fact that we were seeing them play the same team twice in a row.
Yeah, because they had a blueprint going into those follow-up games. It was like, okay, so we know exactly what we're going up against in this second game. And I think that like in 2017 in particular, 2016, Sully was still pretty new. So we were all kind of getting accustomed to his coaching style and the way that they worked. But in 2017, like, yeah, they may not have been as dominant as the 2016 team, but the way that Mike Sullivan made adjustments from game to game in 2017 was just incredible. That was what won that.
It was a better coaching job than 16. Like, not to say he was a bad coach for the 16. It's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
He had to do more coaching with the 16-17 team in terms of these in-game adjustments and pushing the right buttons. That dude did not push a wrong button for 2 straight seasons.
Nope.
2016, I might have been able to be the coach, and they would have won that. They would have won all their series.
You could have been the coach, and I would have been a net, and they would have been fine.
Oh my gosh, that's a team I would get behind.
This year, I think that Sullivan should win the Jack Adams. Looking at all of the injuries that he's had, being in the toughest division, and being able to win it, and the Penguins haven't won a division since 2014. I think that he deserves all the praise in the world for it.
Yeah,
it's funny. I want to get Doug's and Jordan's thoughts on this too, because we've had a couple conversations about like Jack Adams on here. Like, it's hilarious to me that I literally was on Twitter. And this was a couple months ago, but we had still at that point racked up the man games lost. And I'm sitting there making a campaign for Sullivan to be Jack Adams. And people are like, no, he is Sidney Crosby. But Sidney Crosby, and then those same people will say he shouldn't be in the MVP talks. So like, how can you have both sides of that? Like, how can you say Sullivan shouldn't be the coach of the year because he has Sidney Crosby, but Sidney Crosby's not good enough to be in the MVP consideration?
It's all just kind of like trying to do whatever people can to negate the talent and the skill that the Penguins have across the board, from coaching to playing. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, is Sidney Crosby the MVP this season? Probably not. Connor McDavid scored 100. Like, he had over 100 points in 50 some games. Like, that's insane. That's ridiculous. He's the MVP. But if you're going with that logic, then looking at what Mike Sullivan was able to do, the general manager resigned 2 weeks into the season. People like these experts had the Penguins not only not winning the division, but most of them had the Penguins missing the playoffs altogether. So it has to be a comprehensive view of what went down this season. And the things that Mike Sullivan overcame, all of those factors, all of the injuries, all of the adversity, he is just as worthy of that award as anybody else is. And there are great coaches in this league, but like the stuff that happened within the Penguins organization this year was very unique. And I think that Mike Sullivan handled it so well, and found, like, people were saying over the course of the last couple playoffs, like, his message got stale and players were tuning him out, and that, which is just ridiculous. But like, that was an argument that was being used against him as a deserving head coach in this league. But look at what he did. He's top tier.
Most man games lost, and still won the division that, not top to bottom, but 1 through 4 is the most competitive.
Yep.
So my 3 would be him, Rod Brindamore in Carolina, and probably Quenneville with Florida, because that team overachieved substantially this year, in my opinion. Doug, what do you got for us when it comes to Mike Sullivan and the Jack Adams candidacy?
Yeah, I agree. I think that he should definitely be the front runner for the Jack Adams Award. You know, and it's not even just like the man games lost. You have to think about the guys they lost at certain times throughout the year. You know, like, we were without Malkin for a good stretch of games. You know, you lost both your big trade acquisitions over the past calendar year with Kapanen and Zucker for periods of time. You know, lots of guys were out. I mean, granted, they didn't lose Sid for a stretch of games, but still, like, they were he with what they had, like, they really overachieved, and that doesn't even cover everything that they went through internally with Rutherford bailing 2 weeks in, like Jordan said, and everything else that they were going through. I think that, you know, he could be the clear-cut favorite, and should be. And you know, they do everything. I feel like national media does everything like discredit the greatness of Mike Sullivan and Sidney Crosby, and especially Jake Gensel. Like, everybody tries to negate how good Gensel can be on his own.
We just had that conversation
Jake his own line, and yeah, like, you could give him his own third line, and he'd still produce at the same rate he does, in my opinion.
I'm not sure what's going on in the comments right now, but shout out Zach Aston Reese. I'm not sure why people are clamoring for that, but there you go.
Here's right. when you look at some of the players that he had to play with, or not play with, coach and make lines out of. At one point, he was making bottom 6 out of Drew O'Connor, Sam Lafferty, Colton Sevier, Mark Jankowski, James Zahorna, Anthony Angelo. Like, some of these guys I do
put
like.
Some respect on Zahorna's name.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Some of these guys I do like on their own, but whenever you're combining all of these guys as a bottom 6, like, the fact that you have to deal with that and you're still winning games, that deserves all the praise in the world. And the fact that people try to just, like, separate the two, like, okay, you can't give him that because he is Sid. You can't give Sid the MVP. I mean, I listen. I'd think that Connor McDavid's the MVP. It's obvious, right? Over 100 points in 55 games, ridiculous. But saying Sid shouldn't even be in the conversation, to me, is just as ridiculous, because when you look at the definition of the award, it is a most valuable player to their team. And if you took Sid off of the Penguins this year, they are not in the playoffs. There's not a chance.
Yep.
And so I think he is just as deserving, because when you look at all the injuries, who was still there the entire time? Sid. And he led the team in scoring again. Honestly, just because he wasn't scoring at McDavid numbers doesn't mean he shouldn't be in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, McDavid did have 21 more points than the second highest total, who was his teammate, Leon Draisaitl.
Oh my gosh.
But, 104 points.
That's wild. Seriously.
We shall see. I know there's been a lot of debate as far as, you know, what that division is like talent-wise compared to the other divisions, and how will they fare against an opponent outside of that division. We'll see. I mean, maybe if they can get out of it, we'll find out.
I don't even know if they can get out of it.
McDavid's
great, but Edmonton as a team, they're just, without McDavid and Draisaitl, they're literally nothing.
I mean, who do we think is the best team in that division? Like, is Toronto really the best team in that division? Like, do they have the defense and goaltending to do it? Not saying that Edmonton does. I'm just questioning how good Toronto is as well.
If you're looking like within their division, maybe. Yeah,
I think they're the best team in their division just because of how deep their forward group is. Yeah, when you compare it to the other forward groups, they have better players on the third and fourth lines as well.
What's up with what Winnipeg did down the stretch? I mean, we talked about the Islanders. I think Winnipeg won 2 of their last 10. Like they were kind of right there with Edmonton, fighting for the 2nd, 2, and 3 seeds, and then they just collapsed. Because that would have been a team that I was like, they might be the best when you take in consideration everything about their team. Connor Hellebuck in net, who is probably the best goaltender of those playoff teams right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. That division is going to be interesting. Whoever comes out of it, I don't like their chances going forward beyond that. But
nope.
No.
Yeah, it's just difficult whenever you're only playing the same 7 teams and your division is garbage. Like it does kind of potentially give you an inflated sense of your ability and your team, and like the talent, the one-off talent of Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, like those are huge names. Like that division is going to be a mess in the playoffs, but I'm all here for it. Like I can't wait to watch it unfold.
I think they have insane offensive talent in that division. I just don't think that there's many defensemen that are very good in that division.
Right.
Like shout out to Tyson Barrie going from Toronto actually to Edmonton and kind of rejuvenating his game there. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, so this is going to seem like I'm putting you guys on the spot, and it's because I am. We're going to do some playoff predictions now for the first round, which you wouldn't have known about before. So I'm going to give you a series, and you tell me who's coming out of this. We're going to start in the Central Division with the Hurricanes and Predators. So since I'm the one that is doing this, I guess I'll go first, and I'll put you guys in a position where you got to answer before me. I'm going the Hurricanes here.
Yeah, Hurricanes.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed by Nashville.
Are we Hurricanes across the board?
No, Hurricanes.
Yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah, Nashville is meh. They've been meh since they made it to the finals in 2017.
Honestly, I thought Dallas was going to end up taking this 4 spot. I'm surprised. Nashville beat Carolina in their last 2 games to clinch that spot over Dallas. So, but I don't think that they end up doing it in a playoff series. I just think Carolina was kind of content with where they were. They'd clinched the division already. All right, so Florida and Tampa Bay. This isn't going to be as easy, I don't think, as saying in the Carolina-Nashville series. Tampa Bay has a lot of injuries coming into this playoff series. Are these guys going to return? I think that's a huge factor. Like, how much time are they going to miss if they don't start the series? Florida's kind of had Tampa's number in the regular season.
Yeah,
Tampa does get Kucherov back.
And Stamkos, it looks like.
Because they cheated the system. Because the NHL
that's what I was just saying. Yeah, so they have those guys out. Who is it? Barclay Goodrow is hurt as well. Victor Hedman is hurt right now.
Yeah.
Palat is hurt right now. I mean, even getting Stamkos and Kucherov back, obviously those are 2 huge additions. With some of those other injuries, I mean, that would be like us, missing some guys from our middle 6 and our best defenseman, like if Letang wasn't playing.
Yeah.
I
think
first.
Florida.
Give me Florida. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm riding the hype train on them.
Yeah,
I think they're overachieving still, but I think they're going to keep riding it out, and I think they're going to do them.
Yep.
You guys are all with Florida? Is that?
Yeah, I am.
Plus, all right, I'll be different. I'll go Tampa for parity.
Listen,
okay.
I gotta root for the cup winner.
I want Florida to win.
So
let's get Patrick Hornquist to the second round.
Oh. R.I.P.
We're going to save our division for last, of course. So we'll go to this Canadian division that we're talking about so much. Toronto and Montreal. So I said not necessarily the biggest believers of Toronto should they match up with some of the other class teams in the NHL. However, in this series, I think that is a huge gap. They had 18 more points than Montreal in the regular season. I like Toronto in this series. We're not picking the number of games this is going to go or anything like that, but I don't think that this series lasts very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, Montreal's not going to be able to do it to Toronto what they did to us. It's not going to happen in Toronto.
Doug, who we got?
Yeah, I agree with that. That Toronto's finally going to win a playoff. So.
Oh, yeah, true. I mean, if they had the matchup with Boston, who knows? But yeah, we're talking Montreal here. So
they would lose in Game 7.
Yeah.
After leading 3 games to none.
Oh, God.
All right, so I would be a lot more intrigued by this series if it didn't play out the way that it did for like the last half of a month. Edmonton and Winnipeg, like I said, Winnipeg, they were kind of neck and neck for most of the season, fighting for those 2 and 3 spots. Edmonton kind of ends up running away with it. I just think with those 2 at the top, with McDavid and with Draisaitl, I think that they're going to be too much for Winnipeg to handle. I got Edmonton here.
I'm going Winnipeg.
I
just don't trust Edmonton.
We got to have some differences.
Listen, I understand that those are arguably the 2 best players in the world. I mean, definitely the number 1, and he's amazing. But I just think if Winnipeg's playing to their full capacity, they're a better overall team than Edmonton. If you can, I don't even think you have to stop the McDavid line. If you could slow them down, I think they could win. And if they get the goaltending from Hellebuck, I think that he can steal games from them. So I'm picking Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that in terms of overall better team, and they have a little bit more depth. Like I just can't see all 4 lines of Edmonton going up against all 4 lines of Winnipeg and coming out on top. Like I think that they've failed to make moves to support Connor McDavid because he's Connor McDavid and he's so freaking good. Like they've just kind of let him carry the team. Exactly. Yeah, they just are like, okay, well, you're the best in the league, so just do your thing and we're good. But you need a team, you need depth to win. And I'm not saying that Winnipeg's going to, go on and win the Stanley Cup, but I do think that I think that they can find a way to outsmart and outplay Edmonton for sure.
Doug, who we got here?
I'm going to go Winnipeg. You guys made some compelling arguments. And I think, like I looked at Edmonton's top 6. Their top 6 is really good. Jesse Puljujarvi coming over to play in the States really changed the whole game for him. Same with that being able to get Dom Cahuta on a buy low type contract. But
shout out.
Like Jordan and Tyler said, lines 1 through 4, Winnipeg's a lot better than Edmonton is, and I think that Winnipeg's defense is better, just in terms of defensively sound. Like obviously Tyson Barrie's putting up a lot of points, but like we all know from his time in Toronto, like he wasn't the greatest defensive defenseman type of deal, and I think that might get them in the long run. Obviously Josh Morrissey is rather underrated around the league for Winnipeg, and they also build DeMello. So I think that they're a lot better defensively than Edmonton is. So I think we'll go Winnipeg here.
So I'm fading you guys in 2 of the 3 divisions we picked so far.
Yeah, but I'll add this. I'm picking Winnipeg, but if Connor McDavid wants to score 4 or 5 points a night and win the series on his own, that would not shock me whatsoever.
Yeah,
he'll do it
because he's capable of doing it.
Yeah. Nikolai Ehlers is hurt for Winnipeg. They're not sure if he's going to come back right away for the playoffs. Said he could return for the playoffs. But other than that, it seems like they're relatively healthy. So we shall see. All right, we go to our division now. I don't know if I even need to say this one. Pittsburgh and New York in round 1. I got Pittsburgh here. I feel pretty good about it. I'm not saying that the Islanders won't put up a little bit of a fight. I'm not saying we sweep the Islanders by any means, but this isn't going to be anything like 2019.
Same. I agree. I think that this is the first playoff series we win since 2018. I think that we're finally going to. Isn't that crazy to think about?
That sounds terrible to hear.
Terrible. After we won back-to-back cups to have that be the last year that we won a series. But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Penguins are going to pull this one out, and it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be in 5 or 6 games, but I think we win.
I'm saying Penguins, and again, maybe overconfident. I'm saying they win in 5. I think New York only wins one of the games that's played in New York. I just think the way that the Penguins have played them this year and the way that the teams have been going down the stretch, both good and bad for the Penguins versus the Islanders, I just don't see a way that the Penguins collapse like they did in 2019 or even come remotely close. Like I don't see this game going to like a 7-game series. If it is, I think that's disappointing for the Penguins, just because of how dominant they've been. So yeah, I'm picking the Penguins, and I'll say I'm picking them in 5.
Wow, you put a game on.
Yeah, the Pens are definitely going to exercise the demons. The Pens are exercising the demons. There's not going to be a torrential meltdown like there was in 2019. And like Tyler said, like, I don't even think that there's going to be anything that like puts us on like high alert or like scares us in a sense. I think that they're just going to come in and take care of business. I'll put games on it. I say they win it in 5 too. They'll win it. They'll win a game at the Barclays Center, or they're playing at Nassau, right? I think.
Who knows what they're doing? They might be playing. Yeah. They might be playing at a deck hockey rink. I don't know what they're doing out there.
What a mess.
Yeah, dude.
But
it's
I actually
it's like the Barclays Center. It's basically a deck hockey rink because of how bad the ice is.
So we were trying to talk about like one thing that could scare you or whatever things like about the Islanders. How about just the fact that this first game starts off on a Sunday at noon, and we know the Penguins' history with that. To me, like that more than anything else, that's what I'm looking at. Like, can we exercise that demon first and foremost, and come out and just start the series fast and furious?
I hate that for multiple reasons. I don't get to go to the game now because it's on noon on a Sunday.
Shout out to Sarge.
I don't like the Penguins playing early afternoon games because they never play well. And third, after the game's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my day. So I hate those early games.
Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, I would have even taken like a Sunday night, to be honest with you, over the Sunday afternoon. But it is what it is. I will actually, if we're going to put games on this, I'll say 5 as well, but I actually think the Islanders won one of the ones in Pittsburgh.
Oh, whoa.
I just hope it's not on Sunday when I'm there.
Yeah, I know. Same. Please don't lose this game.
Okay, so Washington.
Why?
Washington. Yeah, it's because of Sarge. Washington, Boston. I'm going Boston here. I think that they are clicking at the right time. I think Washington is doing the opposite of that. It sounds like, a lot of these injuries that Washington had down the stretch, or a couple of guys out with COVID, those guys will probably be back for the playoffs. The one guy I'm not too sure about is TJ Oshie. But other than that, it looks like they're coming into this relatively healthy compared to how they finished the regular season. But the way that, like I said, I talked about it. I touched on it a little bit when I talked about the Taylor Hall trade from Buffalo to Boston. Like, that completely changed my outlook on the Bruins, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It gave them 2 legit lines of offense as opposed to being a 1-line team. It got David Krejci's game going, got Craig Smith's game going, and obviously now it takes a little bit of pressure off of that top unit as well. So I like Boston in the series over the Capitals.
Yeah, the Capitals have just kind of looked slow. They're older. They're one of the oldest teams in the league, and they're not bad. I don't think they're bad. I think they're still a really good team, but compared to Boston, I just don't see them winning best of 7. I think the Bruins are going to pull this one out just because of the level of ability that they. They're just. I think they're a little too good for Washington.
Before you guys answer, I don't think Boston's going to steamroll the Capitals or anything. I think it will be a longer series. I just think Boston ends up pulling out. A lot of reasons Jordan just said. Like, Washington is not young by any means. Maybe it's just me wanting to be. Washington made the playoffs, so I'm already wrong. But I picked Washington to not make the playoffs, and I think a first-round exit is the next best thing.
Yeah.
Listen, as badly as I want Washington to win, I think Boston's going to win. The addition of Taylor Hall, it just completely changed the dynamic of their team. Like before that trade, if they never added Taylor Hall, I probably wouldn't have mind playing Boston. But then after they got him and we saw how the Penguins played against them and how they played just down the stretch, I wasn't as confident. So I'm happy we didn't get to round 1. But yeah, I'm picking Boston. But I will say, like, I'm going to be a Capitals fan for the next week and a half because if I'm picking a team that I want to play in round 2, it's the Capitals. So go Caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely Boston. I think even though the other night, whenever Michael Raffl scored in the game, like last second, I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that even though the Caps won the game, they looked really, really bad, and it looked like a very big mismatch. So I think that I don't think that they can win a 6 or a 7 game slugfest with Boston. So I'm going to take Boston. Obviously, like Tyler said, I'd rather play the Capitals in the second round if the Penguins were to advance. But either way, this is going to be a great game, a great series to just watch as a hockey fan, because it's going to be physical. Both teams are going to really just try and get under each other's skins. And obviously, it's a lot of talent from top to bottom. So, yeah.
Yeah, between like after our series, of course, the series I'm most interested in watching would be this one and the Tampa, Florida one that we already talked about. Florida kind of had Tampa's number in the regular season. Yeah. Will that continue into the playoffs? So I'm looking forward to those two a lot. Jordan, I pulled this comment up. I don't know if you saw it. Tell Jordan she needs his Czar jersey on the wall. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I would make the argument I need the roster on my wall. So that, I have a jersey problem, but yeah, if you want to send me a Czar jersey, go for it.
That's what I say. That's what you need to tell people. If they're making the recommendation, that's what you need. They should be the ones to buy it.
I have no problem with that.
I will say that the 12 looks much cleaner than the 46 that he was rocking prior. So
for sure. Yep. I love that.
Not necessarily related to the Penguins or playoffs at all in general, but Jordan, we haven't really talked about this wall, by the way, the infamous wall that we see behind you. How many jerseys are actually on it? Because we can't see all of them.
Man. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. There are 20 hanging up on the wall.
And is that amongst the 3 Pittsburgh teams? Like, are there Pirate ones on there as well? Or is it, okay.
There are 2 nameless Pirates jerseys to my right. Yeah. Smart. I have the gray script because it's clean. And then I have a gold throwback to like I think it's 70s. But yeah, I can't invest in a player because I know they're going to be gone eventually.
Yeah, the no name can't be traded. So
that's right.
I do want to know the story of this Kapanen jersey, the reverse retro from Penn's Gear.
Yeah, that was wild. So I saw that Penn's Gear announced they were doing a reverse retro sale, and I was like, oh crap. Yeah, I love jerseys, and whenever they're super discounted like that, I have a hard time restraining myself and saying no. So I just tweeted about it and was like, oh my gosh, they're really going to make me get this Kapanen jersey. And shortly after that, Penn's Gear reached out to me, and it was just a DM on Twitter, and they said, hey, we see that you're pretty active on here. We have a challenge for you. If you can get 1,500 retweets by Monday, then we'll give you the Kapanen jersey of your choice. I was like, oh my God, 1,500, that's nothing, until I started and I was watching so intently and I was just crawling towards that 1,500 marker. And Monday morning came and went, and I didn't hit 1,500, of course. Like, I was very, very short. And I was like, well, dang, it was a cool opportunity, but whatever, I didn't lose anything, even if I didn't gain anything. No big deal. Like, I got some publicity from Penn's Gear. Thanks, guys. But I think it was Tuesday, the Penguins were playing that night, and somebody tweeted at me about the jersey, and they were like, I'm so bummed that you didn't win it, whatever. What can I do, or something? And I tweeted back at them and just said, convince Penn's Gear to give me till puck drop to get 1,000 retweets. And Penn's Gear tweeted back at me, and they were like, redemption. If you can get 1,000 retweets by 7:00, we'll give you this jersey. And I was at a little over 900. So I was like, let's go, everybody, let's go. And I just like made the push, and by I think 4 or 5 o'clock got the 1,000 retweets. So I went to the Penguins home closer fan appreciation. You were there, so you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had the jersey set aside for me, and I went to go get it, and it was Excellent.
That's dope that they reached out to you though, because I thought like most of the time it was gonna be one of those where it was like, oh, how many retweets do I need to get? Like they reached out to you with a challenge. That's dope.
It was wild. I was not expecting it, and I like did a double take when I saw them slide into my DMs. I was like, what is happening here? What?
This is
if you ever
a question.
need likes or retweets, just I was gonna say if you ever need likes or retweets, just tell everybody you're gonna buy them a PS5.
There you go. Yep.
I'm according to Twitter, I'm still $2.5 million in debt.
$2.5 million.
That is.
We're gonna need to start we need our sponsors to step up on this show if you're ever gonna pay that back. No, but question for all of you, I guess, to wrap this up: I don't know if you guys are like me and superstitious at all. Do we have a certain attire that we will be rocking for game 1 that necessarily won't be worn for game 2 if we don't get a certain result?
I will have a certain t-shirt that I plan on wearing.
So you are superstitious. That was the first part of it.
Yeah. 1,000%. 2016, it was a yellow t-shirt and it had just the Penguins like triangle logo and just said Penguins underneath of it. I wore it during every game of the 2016 run. And then I was like, okay, it's playoffs again. I have to wear the shirt every game for the 2017 run. And they won back-to-back cups. And I'm like, okay, that's the shirt. 2018, it didn't work out as much.
While you were in Australia.
While I was in Australia as well. Yeah. I have proof that I was wearing that shirt. I'm on the Sydney Harbor with the Sydney Opera House in the background. It was the day that the Pens won the cup.
Wow.
So I lit even across the world, I was wearing that shirt when the Penguins were playing because it was the puck drop. It was at 8:00 on Sunday for Game 6 against Nashville, but that was 10 a.m. in Australia on Monday.
Oh my word!
When I was there, so I used my dad's phone because he was the only one that had service out there, and I was streaming the game while I was in Australia because that's what was important to me. Not that I was in Sydney. I needed to watch the game, but
not that there were kangaroos every direction you looked.
Yeah, I was wearing that shirt. My mom was wearing her Schultz jersey. So yeah, the funniest thing, and let me just tell the story real quick. The funniest thing is that the day they win the cup, I'm happy, but it stinks that I'm not in Pittsburgh or anything that I can't celebrate it. But I'm happy. I'm so excited. I'm wearing all this Penguins gear. But that night we were walking around the Sydney Harbor. And this woman just comes up to me, and she comes up to me just like running at me like with her hands up like that. And I have no idea how to react to that. So I just put my hands up, and she like grabbed my hands. It was like screaming. And it turns out that she's from Pittsburgh, and she was a Penguins fan as well. And we were in Sydney, Australia together.
Oh my word.
And so it made a lot more sense when she explained that, but it was so funny to me because there's this woman running and screaming at me with her hands up, and all I did was this because I didn't know what to do. But yeah, that was probably one of the funniest experiences I've ever had. But yeah, it's small world. I mean, another Penguins fan happened to be in Australia at that time. But yeah, that was awesome.
Jordan, superstitious. First part of that.
100%. Yeah. The 2017 Cup run, I had this one Carl Hagelin player shirt that I wore every single game. And I didn't wash it until they lost to the Capitals in 2018. Like I couldn't. I was like, this is it. This is a shirt. But so obviously I have a plethora of jerseys to choose from. So I was going to wear my Steel City It's a Hockey Night in Pittsburgh shirt underneath my Brandon Tanev jersey until the Penguins announced that they're doing their gold jerseys for home games. Yeah. So the one time that I wore a gold jersey to a game this year was my Brian Rust gold, and they won. So I'm going to wear the Brian Rust jersey over the winning combination shirt. I believe it was another Steel City shirt, but it was not the same one. So it'll be that combo with black jeans. Like I have to go full outfit, like shoes, top to bottom.
Oh, I wore the same shorts as well. I had a pair of khaki shorts that I wore to every game. I wore either to the game or sitting in my house.
Beautiful.
And then if they lose, does that get scrapped?
I'll mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Doug?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very superstitious with the jerseys. So if they lose 1 or 2 games in a row and I'm wearing the same jersey, that jersey gets sent into exile. I have, like Jordan, I have enough jerseys where I can rotate it in and out as I please. I just got a Jared McCann jersey the other day, so we're going to start with that. Hopefully it works out because I want to get some good wear out of that. And, I've gotten, like Smitty and I were talking before we started, I went on a streak where I bought just an absurd amount of jerseys over the past couple of months here. So I have more than enough to rotate in and out. There are 2 jerseys that I have that are in permanent exile. The 2014 Sidney Crosby Stadium Series jersey will never, ever be worn again.
Oof.
I wore it for the bubble last year. And
I'm not so sure that it should be worn again, to be honest.
Yeah.
Personally, I just wasn't
about
a
it.
fan of those,
Every time they were pretty brutal, but like I collect Sid jerseys, so like I have every single jersey that Sid's wearing his career, except for I think Rimouski and then the old style jerseys whenever he was the assistant captain. So yeah, I rotate my jerseys. I'm really superstitious with it.
So I actually, before I started actually getting jersey, like everybody knows about my Jersey obsession. I feel like that follows me on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wouldn't necessarily say I don't always wear the same one, but once they lose with me wearing that one, then they're out of the rotation for the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But like I have so many options now between my jerseys and jerseys. For game 1, since I'm going, my only 2 options, I have to also wear whatever they're wearing. So
yes, exactly.
My only 2 options would be Gensel or Pedersen. We'll see which one I go with. I haven't decided yet.
How do you guys
feel
about them wearing gold?
All right, well, that's the last question of the show. Once you guys answer this, we're out here.
Yeah, just how do you guys feel about them wearing the gold jerseys?
Oh, God, I love it. I think from every single perspective, from a Pittsburgh perspective, from a fan perspective, from a branding perspective, like the gold out to me is just so aesthetically pleasing and satisfying. Like to have us all in gold and then them in gold on the ice, like I just think that, like, shoot that into my veins and I'll run like streaking down the strip. Like I just love that. I think it's and if they hadn't done this, I wouldn't have cared. Like I'm just so pumped for playoff hockey. I don't care what they wear, but the fact that they're mixing it up is just it's very exciting to me. I can't get enough of it and I'm so excited. Yeah.
I agree. Like, I think the thing for me is, and I love the gold jerseys. I love their home jerseys. I love all the jerseys. They can't do anything wrong in my eyes. But I think that it's a big thing, like you said, the big picture, incorporating it all together, like the gold rush type thing. I guess if it weren't that, though, like I don't get people feeling strongly about it one way or the other. Like, why do they care so much that they're not wearing their home jerseys? Like, I don't know. Maybe I am on the wrong side of that. I don't know.
Maybe they're suspicious about that. I don't know.
But listen, they're not going to win the cup at home anyway. Like they're going to win it on the road, and it's not going to be in the gold jersey. So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just like they were questioning why, but it's like when you think about it, makes sense completely. I mean, for the past 5 years, I think 2016 was the first year that they started doing a gold out, and so it makes sense that they want to wear their gold jerseys.
Right.
Doug, what do we got on this? You're wearing a gold jersey now, by the way.
I mean, yeah, I like it. I picked up quite a few gold jerseys over the past couple of months here, so I'm prepared for it. I did hear a rumor that they were going to do away with the gold after the season, so something's telling me they're trying to just like do it. Boost the sales,
shut everything down. We'll talk
get rid
to you
of
guys.
what they need to get rid of.
Squeeze out the last bit of jersey sales that they can.
I get.
Yeah.
Dang it! That actually, from a business standpoint, that does make sense.
Damn.
It's like the opposite of what they did.
I
have a reliable source on it, so.
Because then what they're going to do is they'll come out with a new jersey next year that everybody's going to buy.
Yeah.
Like no matter what they do, they could. That's why I like Beefy and I have had this Tyler, whatever you want to call him. I've had this conversation so many times. It's like the smart teams will literally put out a new jersey every single season because they know their fans are going to buy them and they can make so much revenue off that merchandise.
Yep. Yeah.
Listen,
Dang,
if they come out with a new jersey, please incorporate the Robo Penguins somehow on it.
Yes. Oh my God, please.
Listen, I don't care if it's even if you want to keep the normal penguin the main crest, that's fine. Put them on the shoulders or something. I just want the Robo Penguin anywhere on the jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of unrelated because this revolves around football. Did you guys remember Beefy last month how when we had Alex Highsmith on, he was talking about how he's working out with Kelvin Benjamin, and I tweeted about it.
Yeah.
Did you see that he was invited to Giants camp?
Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And then the other thing, the only people that are going to know about this for now are the people in here. Just got a text from a very good source. The Steelers Color Rush game is Monday night against the Bears.
Amen. Love it. Oh,
that's good because that's the game I'm going to with you.
They were considering the Seahawks, but they feel like that's too early in the season, week 6.
All right. Okay. It's a good game.
Also, just since we're talking about jerseys, little tidbit, we have it from a very good source because it's the source himself that Brian Rust's favorite jersey that they wear is the black home jersey.
Is the what?
It's the black home jersey.
I'm surprised because I remember like his last tweet is from when they put out the picture of the reverse retros and it's like the mouth watering emoji.
Dude,
so I thought he'd say that.
I thought it was going to be the yellow jersey. And for those that don't know, I wanted to get a Rust jersey, so I just asked him, "What's your favorite jersey that you guys wear?" And he told me the home jersey. So
okay.
Yeah. So I figured if I'm going to get his jersey, I might as well get his favorite one.
Huge fan of the show. I think he has 5 or 6 pieces of merch now. So
yeah, my very
good
God,
that's
Brian
awesome.
Rust.
Oh Lord,
that's good stuff.
I can't wait to see what Alex comes up with for this drawing, though. I think he was starting to work on it yesterday. So
nice.
It would be a real shame if he took a picture with the Stanley Cup in our hoodie.
I don't know if he would wear a hoodie for the Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah, t-shirt, whatever.
Yeah. But either way, all right. Let's see how this plays out. We might have to do this again. I was talking to some of the people that unfortunately weren't able to make it for this. And said that hopefully we get the opportunity to do it in between rounds 1 and 2, and the Penguins are still playing. So hopefully we're able to do that. But Doug, Jordan, we can't thank you enough for joining us for this. It's been a lot of fun talking hockey with you guys for the first time for some reason.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, Doug, I know that you reached out to me. You recently started your own podcast and have a YouTube channel and stuff for it now. So if you want to plug that and make sure you guys go subscribe to that.
Yeah, so it's called Forechecking TV. It's obviously hockey related, hockey centric YouTube and podcast. We talk about all the teams in the NHL while still maintaining focus on Penguins. It's me and 2 of my friends from college, DK, Trevin Catellis, and Nolan Porterfield. And it's something that we've all been wanting to do for a little while, and we finally, our lives have all opened up to the point that we can do it. And that little trade deadline show I had you on, Smitty, it was kind of like a trial run to see what it would be like. And it worked well enough for me that I think that we could turn it into something. So we have 2 episodes up now. One was talking about the Wilson situation after he took out Panarin and Buchnevich. And then the other one, we did an Islanders series review with Smitty. You know my Jersey guy, Gabe.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Diehard Islanders fan. So, yeah, I had him on and did that. But you can our YouTube is just Forechecking TV. And we're on Spotify, iHeart, all that stuff. We're still working on getting Apple Podcasts going, but we'll have that going within due time. And
I've been enjoying it. I've seen the first couple episodes. I just put the link to the YouTube in the chat though, so everybody can click on that and be sure to subscribe to Doug and the boys before checking TV.
Awesome.
But other than that, man. Let's get some playoff hockey rolling in Pittsburgh. We're not too far away at this point.
Let's do it. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, from Smitty, from Tyler, from Jordan, from Doug, let's go Pens, and we'll talk to you next time.
Let's go Pens.